Hello. I want to talk about the ridiculous concept of the marriage contract. Here's a story about Bob. Bob is a normal everyday guy. Bob works in the sales department. He likes to work on his '69 Chevelle SS on the weekends and go to the bar after work. He has friends, a house he owns outright, and occasionally takes a month off work just for travel. Bob has a pretty great life. One day he was reading the paper and came across an ad which read, "Call this number to find greater meaning in life." Bob thought it might be interesting. Maybe he'd win the lottery. Ha 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 ha. Bob wasn't exactly the sharpest knife in the drawer, and often fell for pranks. He called the number, and over the phone he heard a sexy voice which told him many wonderful things. The voice told him he was great and amazing, that his dick was so big, and that he was a stallion. Bob liked the way the voice made him feel. Suddenly, the voice suggested he should sign up for a membership so he could listen to the voice compliment him whenever he wanted. Bob liked the sound of that. He thought to himself, "Man, I think I'm in love. I really enjoy being with that voice. I would love to do this every day." The voice told Bob that membership was free to sign up. "Wow," Bob thought. "How do I sign up?" "Go to your local office and meet with Jerry." Bob rushed out to his car and revved it up. He sped to 501 Baker Street and met with Jerry. Jerry told Bob that all he had to do was sign a contract and swear to listen to the voice for 5 hours a day for the rest of his life. "Well," Bob thought for a second, "that's a long time, but I really love being with that voice. Okay, sure, I'll sign up." Bob raised his right hand and repeated the phrases Jerry read off a script. "I, Bob, swear to listen to that voice every day, regardless of interest, and whether I have other interests or obligations. I will make the voice my first priority and never let other obligations come between me and that voice. I will make the voice my first priority until I die. So help me God." Then Jerry looked at Bob and said, "Do you agree?" "State I do." Bob said, "I do." Jerry smiled and said slyly, "I now pronounce you a happy person." "Congratulations, Bob," Jerry said with a big smile. "Enjoy your life of happiness." Bob smiled back and shook Jerry's hand. Heading back to his car, Bob called the voice. He just loved listening to that voice. He listened to the voice religiously for a straight month. However, one day he got invited to a work trip. It was supposed to be a lot of fun in the Caribbean. Sun, sand, free drinks. A great time. Bob was looking forward to the trip. Suddenly he saw that the area the trip was supposed to take place in didn't have any phone service. "Oh well," he thought. "I guess I'll have to call the voice when I get back. Man, this is gonna be fun." When Bob got back from the trip, there was a letter in the mail. It was an invoice for $20,000. "What in the actual fuck?" he thought. The return address was 501 Baker Street, the address of Jerry's office. Bob called Jerry immediately and demanded to know what the invoice was about. Jerry chuckled and said, "Did you read the contract? You are billed a month's salary every time you miss a day's call. Think about how lonely you're making that voice. Don't you feel terrible?" Bob was pissed. He quickly went to his computer desk and read the fine print on the contract. The missed call charge was indeed there. Reading on down, Bob saw that he would be forced to forfeit half his salary for the rest of his life if he canceled the service. He also saw that his car would be confiscated and that he'd only be able to drive it on weekends if he canceled the service as well. One more line down, he saw that his house was going to be taken away as well if he canceled. He suddenly realized he would be forced to listen to that voice for the rest of his life. His heart sank. I mean, the voice was nice, but he had become kind of tired of the same old voice, and he kind of wanted to stop calling anyway. "What the fuck do I do?" he thought. That's the story about Bob. One little decision put him into perpetual enslavement to a contract forever. Bob was wrapped up in the feelings the voice gave him. Because of those feelings, Bob followed his emotions right into a perpetual jail cell. Again, a jail cell whose doors will never open again, at least not without serious consequences. Can you think of any contract which provides you nothing but a guaranteed arrangement of permanent human interaction? The marriage contract is one such agreement. Imagine, in order to own a car, you had to agree to drive that one car for the rest of your life, every day, and you were required to pay for all the costs associated with driving it, whether you wanted to or not. Again, for the rest of your life. What other contract requires permanent, inalterable arrangements like this? None that I can think of. And the benefits are so incredibly weak compared to the permanence of such a contract. You date a girl for a while. You want acceptance by her family and to have sex without social castigation. You sign up. But the arrangement is permanent. And to cancel the contract involves serious social, financial, and legal ramifications. What fucking contract is as one-sided as the marriage contract? None that I can think of. And contracts usually have an expiration date. Marriage has no expiration. Again, I ask, what other agreement is so one-sided and so fucking permanent? When they say marriage is a trap, well, that's exactly what it is. Marriage is a permanent life arrangement. Permanent! I think a lot of us that are in this trap really didn't take to heart what permanence actually means. We never let it hit home and override the feelings we had. All the consequences of that decision, maybe you can deal with them, but they're permanent consequences. Forever. Until you die. You wouldn't sign a lifetime contract to drive one car, live in one house, work at one job, no matter how much you liked any of these things. You'd be smart enough to avoid permanent commitment to any of these things. But in love and relationships, not only are your feelings affecting your judgment, but her feelings affect your judgment as well. You want her to be happy. All those indoctrination rules of society push you and push you and push you into a permanent living arrangement. All those rules about love and commitment and feelings and social acceptance, they all play a role to push you into a hole that you can't climb out of. Sure, you could simply step out of the hole. It isn't very deep. But the razor wire fence and guard dogs and thieves surrounding the hole just make it not worth it. One day, maybe it is worth it, and you climb over the fence, lose an arm and a leg to the dogs, and the thieves take everything you have. But finally you crawl away, bleeding and in pain. Eventually you heal and move on with your life. Was it worth it? Is any permanent contract worth it? That hole you dig for yourself is marriage. Whenever you think about marriage, realize it's just like that hole. You step down into it during the wedding ceremony, and the razor fence is erected. Now that you're there, do you realize where you are? Till death do you part. You just dug the hole you will be buried in. You are now living in your own fucking grave. Remember this when she snuggles up to you and asks if you plan to propose. Remember this when you watch television sitcoms or hear about your married friends. They are living in their own goddamn graves. Put down the shovel, gentlemen. Go MGTOW. Drive away from the dig site and never look back. Your life is worth more than that. Thanks for listening.